me by last question, but Lulu long ocean tini belong plan member. Tini will extend him time, but since you took last question, by me last question. Enough let me ask him chair long, use him discretion, will extend him time more. Me move also by you may extend him time long.
Time ego finish, so em talk finish, last plah ask me gam lo you.
Thank you, Speaker. Question below me, go straight long Prime Minister, na long Minister below works, long take note. Question below me go also, okra talk me okay finish. Mani gadia na you me go daren finish. Me go long point straight. Prime Minister, main road below Medang town, national declare road. Na Minister below works, sabe, Minister below transport is sabe. The Minister below former government, Minister below transport na works, display road, national declare road, hard below Medang. One kind of some Hagen road, hard below Hagen. One kind of Ogda road, lo Papua where main road is stop, declare road, belong national government, a responsibility below national government. Question below me also, display road, where former government he put him 10 million, a walking road inside the hard below Medang finish. Let me thank you former government. Long Mr. Peter O'Neill. This was time Minister, Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance, and me to thank you, Loan, no look sabe, to put the money come lo Medang. Question below me go straight, Speaker. In Hablo, Emiet come na look him. You come na look him, na ba you sabe. Mila aski Minister below works na to bled makam look him na look sabe.
You got point over there, Honorable Member Blomide, Minister.
Enough lo talking them sit down because they will cost blow trouble.
Honorable, you got point over there, one point over there, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My point of order is actually in relation to the question that has been crafted by the Governor for Medang, that is asking a question on the state of the Medang roads and when they will be sealed. And I understand he's putting that question to the Prime Minister. What the Governor failed to state was this issue is actually before the National Court. The National Court commenced proceedings in January 2021, summoning provincial government, the DDA, the Governor, myself, to establish who is responsible for the repairs of the Medang town roads. And after making inquiries, gave specific orders, both dated in January 11th, as well as the 12th of June, and directing responsibility specifically on sections of the road to both the provincial government and the Medang DDA, also directing the provincial government make available funds as the DDA in terms of expending the national funds appropriated by the national government. So if the question is in relation to what is the future plans by the Prime Minister on Medang town roads, then I would say that he would be able to answer that. If he's delving into an issue that is currently before the court, under direction of the court, that it may be seen to be subjudicious. So also, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to correct a statement by saying 10 million was made available by the former government. It is not correct. 10 million was made available in 2020 budget and was fortunately released in December 24th, 22nd of 10.9 million. Those funds have been released. They are with the DDA. The National Court has issued directions on how that money will be expended in the repairs. And 10 million again has been released this year.
Honorable,
so also,
Honorable Minister, the chair interrupts you here. I believe your point of order is out of order. The Prime Minister will be answering that question. You are now answering that question which the Honorable Governor of Medang is asking. So, Honorable Governor, you ask him, Blue.
Thank you, Speaker. I think the young member is all over because when I speak about the 10 million kina, is the money that sealed the road in the heart of Medang by the former government. If you drive to Medang, you'll see its road has been sealed already, and it was appropriated in 2011. And it was...
Honorable Governor, may you ask your question to the Prime Minister?
Now. Speaker, my question is very simple. All I want to see is that the road is sealed. Because the Medang is the heart of Papua New Guinea. It's not for Peter Yama. We have a heart of, we have a university there, we have everything there in Medang. Medang is a very big city, just like Mount Hagen, just like Ley, Rabaul, and other places throughout Papua New Guinea. All I want to see is the money that is being appropriated for Medang is not being used for Medang for the purpose of sealing the road and getting the road to the standard. So my question is, Prime Minister, I appreciate that the last government and this government has appropriated 38.9 million kina for our Bogia road, now which ADB is building. And that is welcome by the people of Medang. But the problem we have is because our Bogia road is very emstablo kona place long Bogia ya. Na plan di man na kara no nabla use him. Suppose the 39 million kina come from Medang town road, and but look more better. Just like question blow me before me ask him, Speaker. One kind of 400 million kina you put him along Backside long Geru road. You put him along Taroma road. This black and tribe la money go low, but plan the money no use him road. All I'm saying is, Speaker, when will at least such money like this will be put into Medang town roads? So the town is for every one of us, members sitting here, you go in and out because your children go to Medang to school, and you like coming to Medang. And all we are asking for is, when will Medang town road be sealed? Because all the cars are now running on the dust road. And I have no money such like this appropriate in my budget. I have no money to get Medang Seal Road. Somebody should answer the questions. I've been knocking door on the Prime Minister's office almost 2 or 3 times already on the same issue. And the member for Medang is partly responsible for this. He's putting a stop to it.
Honorable, Honorable
Speaker.
Governor,
That is
may
my
you please
question.
ask your question? You are making statements after statements.
My question is, when will Prime Minister appropriate certain money that he promised me and the people of Medang that he will get it done? When will he do it? That's my question. When will we put a 2-lane road from the TVWAN to the airport of Medang, which he promised me? When will he do it? I got only 6 months to go before I go for election. When will he do it? He's going to all over Papua New Guinea. Medang hasn't put his foot down in Medang yet. When will he come to Medang? That's my question. Why is he listening to the member? That's his last time in the parliament.
Okay. Honorable Prime Minister.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House law ask him question. Governor got all got a right law express him thinking on behalf of people blogger. So please all not ministers, the members, na imi stop nokan pili belpen. Time all upside ask him, wagara man ask him. You stop government law harem kind question and to the best of ability, help where we can help. Mr. Speaker, money allocation lo Medang no problem lo mipla. To the best of ability, one money mipla ken lo budget, ananid lo ting blong kerabim ogarab lo country. Mipla last 2020 and 2019 imi started 2020 and 2021 imi tram lo. Till him fairly money logarab. All big town roads imi tram lo put him 10 million each. Ligligal district road Nakanasem 4 million, Sambla 5 million, including Kanasem, Mipla put in 5 million time former Prime Minister Iguatu. Last Willie Road, Mipla put in 5 million of budget law. Emlo Pangia too. Talk out we must go straight. You know, Mipla try unfair logar up. One cannot say law Medang, Mipla put in money too. Medang Mipla put in money too now. Big man loves to talk lifestyle. You make clear, talk more gammon than Mipla supply isa. So last week road is stop, plant yablo country imi try and put in money lick. Enough long try and best long work lo machine ikirab lo gada hap. Now me like talk sorrow lo Medang governor supposed to work start yet long Medang. There's about 10 million last year allocated and now member of Medang now Minister of Justice confirming also 10.90 go out lo display road. Advertisement you may working. Money you may put in the budget. But Namel is a fight Namel or you may all governor, na you may all member too, so go big play yet. Now me play also government staff also me mix him up some toilet paper na you play rob him toilet on top yet. The problem you know money to the best ability, one of them you can allocate him, try and tell him fairly. But plenty time in the contest between governor power play and member power play, these sort of projects are sabotaged and harmed in between. But me like talk also, whether government or provincial government scheme, governor or provincial government scheme, or member or DDA kiss him, or at the national government works department is running, all in the interest and business of grabbing work like this place. I mean, like talk sorrow of Madang people. Also, we can feel him where governor come from. Some of the time, people are hiding a kissing wind lo Madang, and me clear lot. I want to talk piece in and me through my. Time lo me lo come lo up, me come put him on blood date. But me like look him this la road, yeah, progress lo road. At the moment, National Court direct him. You may all get along national government, province, and district, long planning solution of this plan. National government releasing finish 10 million a budget long last year go out, lo works department. DDA go long court, okay. Court is giving order, na money go sit on DDA, na me clear. As we speak, some lo work take place. And to the people of Madang, long Wharf, come long Mildas, come pass long Yomba, Divine Wood, na Baguanta, finish long road 10 off go long 4 mile na go back long airport, this lab, first 5 kilometer, people put him the program, you may seal him, go down all that. Governor talk, former government making work lab. Me go come lab last 10 years, na me no looking plan the work lab too. Me must talk out na talk straight. Cement work, 400 meters cement work, and me looking come up at the cost of 3 million kina. 400 meters, Nami long town. Me clear lo Medang good, na me talks out of this plan, Mr. Speaker. At me put in this like 10 million last year and 10 million this year. Whether provincial government sponsored procurement working, or district authority sponsored procurement making, or national government, you may pull him, national government, you may get procurement stuff. Lot of people working, like giving this road, long people are Medang instead of fight. 20 million, last year 10, this year 10 million. Aiming up Silim Road from Wharf, Port area, coming up Loyomba, finishing roundabout Loyomba, go on top of long, turn up the main road, Ramu Highway. So me like asking more leaders from Medang. Some of the time, instead of me pull him, tight him, go on, let him national government, and not just Medang, but you may all get a half long country. Governor and a member pull him, lose him, and let him national department make him also something to do about right. But to the people of Medang, if this road he take mature, me ask him, now me like talk, thank you long. I think Franco Asenko Kramer, only offer him independent service floor without Bambla pay more. So Bambla assess him the road and let him road to Medang town, he come up right because I'm hometown lo Mipla.
You make that point of order. What a point of order, Governor?
Point of order is, you see, now he's speaking because Frank Asego, there is clear conflict of interest because member for Medang, that's his uncle. That's where the money is, and this is where you can't allow in this highest office of this land. Prime Minister must put his foot down and say what he's doing is wrong. There's clear conflict of interest, giving money to his own uncle. You can't do that, Speaker. This is why now I'm happy to hear from the Prime Minister. There's something that has been hidden is now coming up clear on the floor of Parliament.
Honorable Prime Minister.
Speaker, me no complete him statement blow me yet na senior governor me come inside. Me to awesome. This like fam Franco Kramer Senko. Me indicate him long works department na DDA. Also make him work free of charge long assist him. This la road all working must work to specification. This road, Mr. Speaker, as I know, as we speak, you know this company making the road. I think I'll engage him, Mr. Speaker, on record. I think DDA company or company blow or machine blown works. Me no clear, but they indicate to me road is start. So, Mr. Speaker, may I give him assurance, lo people lo Madang. This road, me find out, me go away.
You make that now a point of order.
I do not want the Prime Minister to mislead Parliament. No private company will give free of charge service. And if you check properly, that particular engineering company has been paid money to do the job. Check your records properly, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable, you make that now a point of order. What's your point of order, Honorable Minister?
I will make it brief. A statement has been made. Now, if other members here, including the opposition, want to make allegations, he can go out and make those allegations and be held accountable if he can't prove them. So the Prime Minister has made a statement, and I can reaffirm. Prime Minister Senko has not received one toya and will never receive one toya. So they're a national company that throughout the Pacific, yes, and so they've agreed to provide pro bono. And certain companies do provide pro bono, those who have reputable backgrounds. Thank you.
Okay, talk sabe all the honorable members also am chair no na entertain mo any point of order in relation to this question. By Lare Prime Minister now answer him na because you me over lot question time finish.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Babin Pinisi Minapos. We said got issue long this law company, ombudsman staff, courthouse staff, go make a report that's all. No need look, I'm talking later, that's all, Lucy. But fact remains, work is start finish. Me sincerely talk sorrow of Medang provincial government assembly, suppose to come through pathway belong provincial government. But work is start. But me follow up, looking work all one up. Medang town road remains our priority, just like Ogada town road, the country. We have over 100 kilometers of town road in our country. If you spend 2 million kina per kilometer for a standard two-way lane, that's almost 200 to 300 million kina just on town road again. So for Medang, you may not got full money, but every year we will commit in not just Medang but all our major town roads, at least 10 million every year going forward until 2025. That we could refix the face of all our town roads by the time our country stands celebrating 50 years of independence in 2025. Like that, Medang, we started last year with 10 million, this year another 10 million, next year another 10 million, going forward until 2025, hopefully, face from Medang and smile again, a beautiful Medang come out less clear. Thank you too much.
Mr. Speaker, my supplementary is this. The Health Minister, in his response to the Governor for Eastern Islands, mentioned about gas. And I've read from the newspapers, there's been shortage of gas or oxygen. Shortage of oxygen in Eastern Islands and also in most of the hospitals throughout the country. And also the beds are overcrowding. My supplementary is this, Mr. Speaker. What have you done as the Health Minister to prepare the country for such situation? Where have all the COVID funds gone to? And why are all the hospitals in our provincial hospitals throughout the country and even in the city in Port Moresby is overcrowded? What have you done with those funds? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the good opposition leader for his questions. I forgot to mention that last year this government gave 2 million to each district to prepare themselves for COVID-19. To prepare themselves. Yeah, you want me to answer the question or are you going to keep going?
We have a point of order. Obviously, what's your point of order?
That similar response was done by your Prime Minister, and I've proven that there was no 2 million for the hospitals. You are misleading the Parliament. Where is all the COVID funds for the hospitals? Answer the question.
Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if he lets me finish, all funds through the Health Department go through the PHS. So the 2 million has been given to, all the money has been given to PHS to ensure that they are ready for this COVID. The oxygen problem that the good opposition leader said that we were missing is wrong. We weren't missing. We have bills that accumulated since 2009 to the company that supplies us oxygen. And all to this time, we never paid anything until last week when our treasury paid 14 million to ensure that the oxygen is released for our people. So now that we are getting oxygen to all our areas. But this is a legacy issue that has plagued our health system.
Hello, opposition leader. Let me, until I recognize the point of order, but you talk. Now we recognize the point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's forget about legacy issues. We've had 6.7 billion in COVID funds. What have you done as the Health Minister?
Let me address his point of order first, then we'll come to your point of order, Honorable Governor. Opposition Leader, point of order, blue, I'm out of order. He's answering a question. I'm going to answer him straight. So, Honorable Minister, You would pass them. Honorable Governor, one point of order, please.
Mr. Speaker, the presentation on the floor of this House, now me like cautioning all members of Parliament, there's a lot of misinformation on this floor, Mr. Speaker, and you have to rule. There was no 6 billion for COVID-19. Mipla olga sit down lo here. Treasurer giving Mipla this report. Na inside of this report, we talk 501 million. Why are we allowing members of Parliament to tell lies on the floor? And then our people who are watching, Mr. Speaker, they pick up these lies and they spread these lies. We should read the reports that are presented, and I would ask the good member for Vanimo Green, my brother, to withdraw that statement. We approved on this floor in November last year to borrow 5.7 billion for the entire budget. Out of that borrowing, 501 million went specifically for COVID actions in the districts, in the provinces, in the health centers, at the PHAs, and at POM General. The same part of that funding went to support police and many other agencies. Mr. Speaker, we were given this report on this floor. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Governor. Let me rule on his point of order first. So let me give him talk along this law. All honorable members, I think more better you may like ask him question and you may like make him statement. You must talk him all facts, talk him trouble talk, no display. So may allow him honorable minister to finish him back him all display. Ask him.
Mr. Speaker, if the good opposition leader was in Parliament at the time, we've given 4 different audit reports here. I've given 4 audit reports at 4 different Parliament sessions, and it's been well documented of everything that we spent through the COVID time. We also got 4 million given to each PHA for them to spend. If he had time, he can go down to his Vanimo PHA and sit down with them and find out what they're spending on. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, it seems to me that we are abrogating the responsibility to the country by apportioning blame, Mr. Speaker. And we also seem to be ignoring the fact that in the Treasurer's statement, he made it very clear. And we all know this, but somehow when we are debating, we try to defend our own position. The last time the world faced a global pandemic was 100 years ago. None of us were alive at that time. There is no precedent in how a world deals with a global pandemic. You may crossfire lo illegal road blow na bridge blow na classroom na toilet na. We are forgetting the fact that we are price takers in this global economy. Mr. Speaker, as Chairman of Plans and Estimates, I appeal to the House that we have to put our petty differences aside. The whole world has to figure a way out of this pandemic. This pandemic is causing a global catastrophe. Mr. Speaker, 2 weeks ago, the price of shipment of one container, 20-foot container, all around the world, increased by $1,000 for a 20-foot container. The price to move a 40-foot container increased by $2,000 for one simple reason. All get a container blow shipping cargo ya. All in lockup. China was manufacturing, China was exporting to the rest of the world because they were the first ones out of the pandemic, Mr. Speaker. Now all Western countries all importing cargo from China. Now get a container gonna siliblo hub. Papua New Guinea is currently short of containers. The price of coffee, Mr. Speaker, Robusta coffee just went up. It went up because Vietnam is unable to move the coffee out of their country to the global markets because of a shortage of containers. Now, Mr. Speaker, as members of Parliament, we should be better informed than the average Papua New Guinean on the street so that we can debate here with intelligence and understanding. It is our job to find a way out of this crisis for our people. Yes, me understand now. You know, with respect to the member for Yalibu Pangia, he cannot deny that there were serious happenings during his time at the helm of the country. I sat on that side of the House and I argued against some of those things. But problem lo miblaya, and I think I see it now when I'm on this side of the House. Time of the Prime Minister sanap na tok. Mibla ogra sa benim taso. We never question, Mr. Speaker. And the predicament that our country is in now would not have happened had we had a sovereign wealth fund, Mr. Speaker. All get a desla hatwok law. Grand Chief Sir Michael Somarena, government blongem. Hatwok ikam na mipla supposedly got one plus sovereign wealth fund in 2011. We threw the sovereign wealth fund out into the street. Now you mean no got money. Time no good ikam na hitim country, and we don't have any money. So we have to borrow, whether we like it or not. Suppose tomorrow Nukla Prime Minister come inside lot 2022. Mr. Speaker, I want to be on record to say that that Prime Minister will actually have to borrow again. How do I know? Because you just have to check every other government on this planet. Every government is borrowing. Because they got no choice. I'll give you an example. If you go onto the Australian government website now you check him, this is from the Australian government. This year, while we borrowed, 6 billion, 7 billion kina? The Australian government this year is borrowing $191 billion. They're borrowing close to 500 billion kina. Now, the Australian government was operating on surpluses for a number of years. They never borrowed. Why are they borrowing now? Because of COVID-19, Mr. Speaker. And those of us who are leaders in this House need to understand why, so that we can make the decisions that are important for our people. The Australian government chose to borrow because they had no choice. Now, if you look at the Australian government, Mr. Speaker, they are planning for 5 years ahead. How many years are we planning, honorable members? And Mr. Speaker, you also head of the legislature. How many years are we planning ahead for our people? Or you may cross-fight us on the DSIP na, Ligilig highway blow you mean na, bris na, baret na, toilet na. What about the next 5 years? That's our job. Our job is to look ahead and to see the problems, to see the potholes. Now you must rere na go come up. You know, you mean gure nating abus na puna ni go on the hole, which is precisely what we are doing now. We must change the way we do business, Mr. Speaker, in this House. You must start to talk through na talk straight. Hey, come up, okay, you may look something to yes, me as well finish. You may send him na move forward. Not to continue to throw mud at each other. That's not helping our people outside, Mr. Speaker. I give you another example. The New Zealand government, again, one of our neighbors. The New Zealand government is expecting to borrow $100 billion just this year. They never borrowed in the past, not in the recent past anyway. Second record blown. They are going to increase their borrowing by 73%. And we are complaining about a lousy what? 3% increase? 10%? Well, the New Zealand government is going to borrow 73% of what they need in their budget for their people. What are we doing for our people, Mr. Speaker? That should be the more important question. We shouldn't be debating Asua Blau side. We should be trying to figure out how to find a way forward for our people, Mr. Speaker. The New Zealand government are planning that by 2025, they are going to borrow up to 46% of their GDP. And they're borrowing about 500 billion kina. What I would like to see on behalf of the civic people, Mr. Speaker, is a plan put on this floor. And I would like to say this because I'm part of this government. And I would be irresponsible to my people if I did not ask to see a 5-year plan on the floor, Mr. Speaker. How much money by me borrowing next year? How much by me borrowing the next couple of years in 2025? Why 2025? Because it's also a magic number for us, Mr. Speaker. By 2025, our revenues from the resource projects kick in. Now we need to see some calculation presented in front of all these honorable leaders. And let's debate that, Mr. Speaker. You may debate in this la good plus something. Now you may go one bill, now you may go come up law 2025. You may not get passing mine, na Gurian, na Pundan Kirat, now you may come up law 2025. Our people need to look at us with some confidence that we know what we're doing as a parliament.
both opposition and government, Mr. Speaker. There's like a petty fight here. You me osemo mangi, you me pilai mabol na fight I need last pro mango here. It's unacceptable. That is the challenge before us. How do we get out of the pandemic? Our two nearest neighbors, Australia and New Zealand, are planning to get out of it within 5 years. You mean by come out one in time? That, Mr. Speaker, is what I would like to see. Because I think that's what the people of Papua New Guinea want to see. And I'm sure the people of ECP definitely want to see that. Because our priority, Mr. Speaker, priority blame me one year and DSIP na PSIP. You may come cross pipe lo this stuff. But what about the greater good for the country? Mr. Speaker, we should be investing right now in the strategic assets. Now, the former Minister for Planning and the former Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Charles Abel, he presided over a very important document. And that was the Strategy for Responsible Sustainable Development, Mr. Speaker. In that, we were talking about moving to a green and a blue economy. No time, me hari one presentation lo this la floor, where we are actually shifting our country towards that outcome. That was a very good document. Author Blongemi, sit down and have side stop, yeah? Are we going to shelve that document just because the honorable member is in the opposition? I don't think so. It's a work that belongs to the people of Papua New Guinea. We should pick it up. We should be pushing for those things because, Mr. Speaker, as a result of this global pandemic, other countries are already shifting their economies into the blue and green spaces. Now, Mibla no even move yet. Mibla cross pipe lo DSIP na PSIP na. Mibla lagi in school na bris na. Mibla lagi toilet na. Mibla lagi in classroom ya, Mr. Speaker. Mibla no even thinking lo blue-green economy, Mr. Yet, there's a document here, Mibla rerim finish na stuff. We were actually a year ahead of the United Nations on such a development, Mr. Speaker. I would like to challenge us to start to do those sorts of things that we talk about and aspire to in our constitution. All Lapun, Papa, before you all been working on 1972, you mean not still working yet now? We need to be doing that, Mr. Speaker. Borrowing is serious business. You mean on a passing mind, I go inside. Mr. Speaker, I want to make a couple of suggestions because I don't want to see another report in here that does not talk about the future. We can talk about the past and throw mud as much as we like. We can talk about today, but I want to know what's in it tomorrow for the young Papua New Guinean that's currently sitting in the classroom. 70,000 young Papua New Guineans are going to finish grade 12 this year, all by Noga walk. How many more are going to come out of university, all by Noga walk? We need to be dealing with that challenge, even with COVID-19 here. And if we have to borrow, which I have no doubt we will be talking about borrowing again next year. You may borrow. Let's agree as a country, but let's borrow and no can you go na walking on road blow, you may spin one fancy car on top. Let's go and build a road and a wharf that's going to bring production out into the wharf and out somewhere else. Na salim this la production. That's what I want to see us talk about, Mr. Speaker. I want to see us do those sorts of things that previous parliaments did not do. And I want to challenge especially government because this is my government and I wanted to do those things, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to do it. And Mr. Speaker, the responsibility falls on you as Wasman Blodisal House. The legislature needs to be stronger. And I concur with your sentiments this morning, Mr. Speaker, about us properly funding your office so that you are able to hold executive government to account. We have never been able to do that since independence. And it's a structural flaw that results in executive governments doing whatever they like. It needs to stop, Mr. Speaker. All our MPs here, only representing people below Nasindonia, Mr. Speaker. We need to figure out, Sindonim Yumi, outside the parliament, before we come to the floor, explain the budget to us properly. Not just come and put in Loyana. We have to read this. I mean, we get about what, 20 books or something. Who in his right mind is going to read all those books, Mr. Speaker? Misa opim tasoli go na milukim isipik, na miridim lo isipik tason, na milusin tilo garanar. That won't do, Mr. Speaker. Our leaders need to understand this is a subject law budget and how it relates not only to their district, but to their people as well. So that all can go back now, explaining to people blow. So time you make that kind of debate, or say one play talk no a wrong blow you, and another talk no a wrong blow you. Mr. Speaker, we are appropriately educated, so we understand that it's neither here nor there. You can shoot in pinga go come, but house you may all get a silip kirap long em. Have by you may all get a current. You know, member blow. Yalibu Pangia by Karimo, Treasurer or current Prime Minister, everybody is going to carry it, Mr. Speaker. My final point, Mr. Speaker, is this. All get a public money, you miss a spending me. Now you may come, now you may harim losla budget, 7 billion, 18 billion, kind number, yeah. These are just numbers. What we need to do, we need a mechanism, Mr. Speaker. And I would like to see a parliamentary mechanism if there are no other mechanism. You may go out and sekim. Suppose you may go and spend him 300 million in one province. Okay, you may go and say him, this is 300 million I'm carrying one kege. Or you may go spend him nothing low. Walking bilas na, look nice na. We need election na go cap. We need to stop that. If you come and spend 500 million in my province, then the people of Isipik need to account to the rest of the country how you may use him this money and carrying one kege. I would like to see, Mr. Speaker, that sort of reporting on the floor of this House. Because that is the sort of thing that I think our people deserve to know. Only must have it. How you may use money belong all. Because you may call him all kind of infrastructure and want something here. All those infrastructures have not resulted in an increase in our GDP, and that's a fact. The only time we saw a substantial increase in GDP was when the late Grand Chief Sir Michael Thomas Somare was the Prime Minister of this country between 2012 and 2011. And the record proves it. And he did that off the back of an LNG project where he was brave enough. And I commend the people of Southern Highlands who stood by him and made that happen. We need to repeat that sort of performance. But we can't do it, Mr. Speaker, if we don't go and check all this nice infrastructure. Me fighting brosco kam longemia. One em kai this floor infrastructure karim. Suppose me planning banana, me need lo harvesting banana. You know me planning banana and bilas nothing na noga keke blongem. With that, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this time.
PNG International Wellington Albert is the latest biggest signing by the London Broncos as they look to beef up their forward line ahead of the new season. Broncos head coach Jermaine Coleman said he's delighted and relieved to finally get him, adding Wellington comes with a fantastic reputation and at his best is difficult to handle. Coleman said he's proven that at all levels of the game. Albert had a difficult season this year, missing it with injury, but looking forward to a full preseason under Coleman's coaching prowess to get him back fit and firing. Coleman said this is a significant signing that will provide more impact in the middle of the park, which will be vital for the club this season. Speaking to the media this week, Wellington was itching to get back on the field following a tough year that saw him spend much of it on the sidelines with injury. He said he can't wait to play Championship Rugby League again after having to sit out this year. Wellington is now looking forward to working with his coach Coleman and his backroom team to get himself ready for the 2022 season. Albert will make a move to London with his family, and his relocation was a major factor in him wanting to join the London Broncos. Terry Longwood, TV1 Sports.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Me got some question where me like ask him, Minister of Justice, series of questions. But first, Mr. Speaker, me like just clarify legally one pla. Me the article have been come up on newspaper tete, lo Post Korea, where he talk lo one pla project lo province lo mipla, where it's lo project complete. Me like talk thank you lo Ministry of Justice na. All workman blend lo working slow work. Na thank you lo all newspaper, all media where only been reporting sla, but me like ask him also enough only talk savel or name lo this la member of parliament am responsible. Na name lo this la company. Na date one time this la project they been come up because me pla lo provincial government me pla aware lo this la project. Me pla bin sawe. Na me pla aware also me no stop lo this la term. So enough media he clarify him so that people all can survey. Mr. Speaker, question blow me like asking law, Minister of Justice. Now me like in police minister, na prime minister will take note. Now in fact, people all get must take note. Now you know take note as all, but enough people kiss him strong pla think na make him some action come up. This law question him law one pla deplorable trend, which I must concern him people all get. This trend that I speak of is the injustice that's becoming increasingly prevalent insofar as violence against the most vulnerable in our society is concerned. Let me put some context to my questions before I ask them. Yesterday, there was a protest march in Mendi demanding justice for the murder of a young woman who was killed in her prime, allegedly by her husband. This protest took place because apparently there was insufficient evidence, or the presentation of the prosecution file was not in order, or whatever excuse or reason, and for that the matters were dismissed. This is becoming so normal and prevalent in our society today. And this form of abhorrent violence is becoming so frequent that it is now becoming normalized. And if we are not careful, we shall become numb to it. But we must not accept this. We must do something drastic to counter this rise in evil against our women folk and children. And I say children because they are even more vulnerable and prone to be silent victims, given that they cannot speak or act to save themselves. Countless many are abused and harmed, even killed in our midst, and we do utter nothing about this. We read about it, we hear about it, and now we even see it on the internet, and we still do nothing. How can we stand here and pray and claim to be leaders when we do nothing about the most vulnerable in our society? Meanwhile, we see that there is a breakdown in what we call the justice system. Somehow, these matters are often snuffed out like the lives of countless women and children before they are even given the opportunity to even whisper their cry for justice. Mr. Speaker, this is not just a legacy issue. This is an issue that has confronted us over the last few decades, and every government has tried its best. But I would like us as a government, and indeed, Mr. Speaker, if you can also add the weight of your office, we must do something about this. Our people are crying for justice. In fact, I'm informed that there was an attempt or even an idea by members of the community to burn down the Hagen courthouse because they were so disgusted at this. Minister, my question to you through our speaker, will your ministry conduct a review of the situation that leads or gives rise to this despicable growing cancer in our society? Will you assure this House and this nation that this government is serious about addressing this by proposing a series of tactical and strategic action items to rectify this? If so, can you elaborate what are these proposed actions you intend to take? And can I ask if a review of the investigations and prosecution's capacity and quality of work output be reviewed so as to determine where there seems to be such a rash of poor quality investigations and lackluster prosecutions, leading to an injustice that continues to pervade our nation? Can we seriously consider adequately remunerating those involved in this vital chain of the justice system so that the system is robust and balanced? And here I make a side note about how much more those involved in the dispensing of justice at the end of the process are remunerated as compared to those who are defending, investigating, and prosecuting them. Thank you.
Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I acknowledge the series of questions asked by the Governor for oral, and they're valid questions. It's an issue I also was concerned about after reading on the front page as well through social media of numerous cases of a trend occurring where cases are being dismissed at the committal court, or in some cases even getting to trial and the judgments or sentencing handed down by the national court appear to be compensated through payments of compensation rather than sentencing of imprisonment, given these involved cases of murder and serious crimes. So as I mentioned to the Governor, these issues, when it comes to criminal prosecution, lie in the jurisdiction of the public prosecutor, which is a constitutional office that falls outside the jurisdiction of the Department of Justice. And none of the Under the Constitution, he is beyond anyone's direction or control. But soon after becoming aware of those cases, I did have a meeting with Secretary for Justice and the AG and asked if he could meet with the public prosecutor to find out the circumstances behind those cases that led to those judgments or led to matters being dismissed at the committal, whether it was a case of poor investigation, insufficient evidence, or possibly an error in the judgment, that his department may consider appealing. And the AG did confirm he did meet with the public prosecutor, and he did give an undertaking to have his staff review those cases and to consider whether those cases will be brought back before the Supreme Court for appeal. That is essentially where the response in relation to those queries. On the issue of DJ carrying out reforms in police investigation, now in the position of justice, that's essentially outside of our jurisdiction, but there are reforms being undertaken by the current Minister for Police, as well as reforms under DJAG that'll work together. And as we've seen recently with a number of high-profile arrests concerning money laundering and white-collar crime, there are also reforms being carried out in investigations of serious crimes like murder, especially those concerning women and children. So I don't have the specific details right now before me to be able to give to the governor of this parliament, but I'll be happy to, in other sessions, provide a detailed statement to that effect. Thank you.